Okay, just like that, we're back with another Portable Clint. The cool thing about Hollywood is that this next guest has married me and she has killed me, but yet she's right here, right now. Ladies and gentlemen, Amy Gumenick. Whoa, look at you. Look at you. First of all, how are you?
Doing well. Not planning on killing you this time.
Okay, well, good.
So
hey, look what I did, and I normally don't ever do this, but I just want to show you guys something. We're gonna get right to it. Look at us. Look at us.
We're so happy.
That's you. That's for you. You can do whatever you want with that.
Yeah.
You can throw it away. I don't care. Anyway.
Frame it.
Yeah. Okay. All right, guys.
Oh, I love it.
Amy.
Yes.
When did you start your acting profession? I know you were born and raised here.
Yes.
So I'll keep that in mind.
LA vocals.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So when did you start?
Okay. So many answers to that question.
Look at this beautiful glare on you. You see that? It's like
I brought my own lighting.
Yeah,
today.
you did. Look at that. Okay.
I had a few false starts.
Okay. Let me hear about those.
I have known that this is what I wanted to do for as far back as I can remember. At 5, I memorized the entire musical of Chicago.
Really?
And informed my parents that I would be Roxy Hart someday, which as a 5-year-old was probably a little concerning.
Wow, but that's kind of impressive
but
though
then I
as
got
well.
to kill my husband
Right,
on TV, so
right.
it all comes full circle.
Yeah, exactly. True.
And at about 8 or 9, I convinced them to let me try acting professionally.
Okay. And was there a lot of convincing there?
There was. My parents are extremely supportive of the arts.
Yeah.
Neither of them are directly in it, but always exposed us to dance and theater, and that was always sort of a constant in my life. But I wanted to do it professionally. So my dad had a colleague who knew a manager, blah, blah. I met with this guy, signs me. I went on a few auditions.
Yeah.
It's going great. And the deal at the time with my mom was, my dad was all in, my mom was a little skeptical.
Are you the only child or anything? What?
No, I'm the youngest of 3.
Okay, so you're the youngest. Okay.
Yes.
All right. I am too, by the way.
Oh, that's how we get along.
Yeah.
So I convinced them to let me get an agent and an audition and blah blah. Somehow I won that argument, but the deal was whoever was unhappy first, them or me, it was done, no questions asked, and I couldn't miss school for auditions.
Okay.
So it lasted about 3 months, and sort of culminated with I had met another little blonde girl. We auditioned together. We had the same reps, blah blah, and wanted to have a play date. And so my mom called her mom to set up this play date, and the answer on the other line was, they're in competition. They absolutely cannot be friends.
Wow.
And I will never forget,
Wow.
my mom hung up the phone and was like, remember our deal? If you go to school and finish college and still want to act, we'll support you 100%, but this is done.
Wow.
So I, of course, thought she was so mean. And now looking back on it, it could have gone many ways. But my particular situation, I couldn't be more grateful that is how it worked out. And they really held up their end of the deal. And I still have yet to run into that little girl who wouldn't be my friend.
I was going to ask you, what's her name? Do you know her? Do you remember her at all?
I remember her first name.
What's the first name?
I'm scared.
It's okay. All right, go ahead.
Maureen.
Maureen. Oh, okay.
Little blonde Maureen, if you're out there, I still need that play date.
Okay.
So that didn't really work out. And so I continued doing acting and local community theater kinds of things at school. I danced competitively growing up, so I was always performing in some way. And then did summer programs and played Roxy Hart at 16. So
you
accomplished
did?
That.
Wow, okay.
And then went to college, was a theater major.
Were you off book at the get-go when you went in for...
I was off book at the audition.
Okay.
And yeah, I went to college, majored in theater, and then moved back to LA to really give the professional side of things a go.
Okay, so you're back in LA. You're ready to go. What's the first thing you book?
First thing I booked was a recurring co-star on Greek on ABC Family.
Okay. I auditioned for that. But anyway, that's beside the point. It's not about
weren't
me, it's
really
about
a,
you.
like, sorority girl
I wasn't.
type?
I don't know why. But anyway, go ahead. I just remember going to CBS Radford. Is
Yeah.
that where you are?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
In fact, going back to the parental thing, my mom actually drove me, because the first audition was like a really big deal, and we have pictures of me like waving at her car as I'm walking into like a studio for the first time.
That's cool. Okay, so you do that. How many you do recurring on? Okay, what's the next thing after Greek?
So after Greek was what sort of like got me into the union. So I will
Okay.
forever be grateful to Allison Silverberg and team. And they actually asked me in the audition. I was SAG eligible at the time, and in the audition they asked, if you were to book this, could you go join tomorrow? So of course you say yes.
Sure, absolutely.
And muster every penny you've ever saved to just do it. So
What was the amount? I always like to ask the amount of your SAG because
gosh, I don't remember.
that's fine.
It was a lot at the
Yeah,
time,
it's
not as
just-
much as it is now.
Yeah,
but
yeah. It's expensive.
It was basically what I made for the
Sure.
first episode. Was
Okay.
what paid my dues.
All right, so
Yeah.
you do a couple. You do a few. You recur on Greek, and then
Yep.
why? Because I think don't you do My Own Worst Enemy? You do something
Yes.
with that.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
So that was interesting. That I had actually auditioned for a different show for the same casting office, and then got a call. I didn't get what I auditioned for.
Sure,
but
this happens
which-
a lot. This happens often, not many,
Yeah.
but it does happen.
But they were doing it was sort of right at the beginning of the like web series things for a while before like Netflix and Hulu and all of that. Remember they were doing sort of side stories.
Sure.
On whatever the website of the show was. So this was CBS. And so they were sort of at the beginning of that whole movement, and they wanted to do a web series that kind of told the backstory of a few of the characters on the show. So that's what that project was. And that turned into, we did 6 like mini episodes. It was so fun.
Was it?
Yeah, it was so fun.
Because it's fun because that was a big thing that it was attached to because it was Christian
Yeah.
Slater's
Yeah.
big return to TV and stuff
And there
that.
was some talk of then sort of the web side of the show
coming together?
and then sadly the show got canceled. But
Okay.
I think they just were a little bit too early in the game.
Sure, yeah, because that was the beginning
Yeah.
days of webisodes being something that the studios are
Totally. It was an
looking
experiment.
at.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so you do that. And
Yeah.
are you having the time of your life? Are you, because it seems like you're booking pretty easy. Are you struggling between bookings, or is it happening pretty good?
I had a really lucky start, I think. Greek happened about 2 weeks after I graduated college.
Perfect.
It was one of if not my very first audition in LA, and then from there, soon after that, I did a Lifetime movie, Natalie Holloway.
Okay. Yes, you did.
Yes, I did.
Okay. All right.
And then right after that, Supernatural happened, and that turned into recurring, and so it was
Supernatural's got a big following too, right?
an amazing following.
I mean, it's like not half
It's
the people have
unreal.
never heard of it.
Yep.
Half the people, it's the best show in the whole entire world.
Yeah, and most people, it's very clearly one or the other. It's
Yeah.
very black and white. And I will say that the fan base of that show is beyond anything I could ever.
Really?
They're incredible.
What season are they on now? Like 18? I mean, it's an incredible amount of
think-
time.
I should know this. I think they are going out at 15.
That is crazy.
15.
15. That's a lot.
That's a lot.
Okay.
It is a lot.
Okay, so do you go, by the way, when do you start doing like these fan shows because of Supernatural? Because you do it for other things I'm seeing.
Yes. So that was a world that I didn't even know existed.
The autograph world?
Yeah. I mean, I'd heard of Comic-Con, but I never knew that there were conventions for specific shows. And even Comic-Con I had heard about, but I didn't understand what it actually was. And so I believe it was my second episode of Supernatural. I was in the makeup trailer, and someone turned to me and was like, just wait, they're going to hit you up for conventions. And I was like, I've been on the show one time. Like, nobody knows who I am. Cut to a few months later, got a call about doing this convention. So it was in England.
Wait, you were in
And
England, or the convention's in
the
England?
convention was in England, and I was attending this as one of the guests of the convention.
Okay.
So I am now in England.
Okay.
Still totally having no idea what I'm getting myself into.
Sure.
But you know, it's a free trip, so sure.
Yeah, man.
With awesome people, because
Yeah.
the cast is amazing. I would pay to hang out with them. And I remember we were all the cast, those of us who were there, were all on a bus being driven from this like castle they had us staying in to this convention center. Tough life.
Wow.
And we get on the way there, me and Matt Cohen, who played my husband on the show, were having a conversation about how no one was going to know who we were, and we're just going to go and have a good time, and we'll like hang out in the background. And we walk into the convention hall as sort of this like hidden entrance, and it, I swear to you, was like a Beatles concert.
Really?
It was out of control. Not only did they know, but they know every detail of every little character nuance and physicality, and it's incredible. And then getting to know the fans, and because they travel from all over the world to attend these, it's really, I mean, I have met some of the most giving, kind, like passionate people. I didn't even know such a breed of human existed. They're awesome.
Wow. And that's just your first thing, and you'll eventually do more comic books playing with the different characters, right?
I've done a few. I haven't done too many. But when I started working on Arrow, there's a lot of crossover in terms of the fan base, and
Sure.
Arrow now has sort of gotten into that convention world. So yeah, they're definitely, it's fun to sort of see how the different sort of sci-fi comic book worlds collide.
Oh yeah, I know. If you quit acting right now, could you just go make a living doing the fan signings?
I know people who do.
I do too.
They tend to like the men a little bit, you know.
Really? You would think it'd be the other way around.
It depends on the show. There's a lot of ladies that love Supernatural.
Oh,
which is
yeah, well,
no
that is true.
surprise
That is
because,
true.
You know,
Okay.
look at those boys. But it's definitely it's an amazing excuse to travel and celebrate this like crazy, amazing world that the show
it
has
is
created.
crazy. It is crazy. Okay, so Supernatural happens.
Yes.
Because of little things like this happening, do you think that this is the start of your career becoming gigantic? How do you feel about that?
It depends on the day. I mean, yeah, I definitely was excited that things were moving. You know, even though I grew up in LA, I was very removed from the actual industry. I obviously knew people who were in it. But other than my little 3-month stint, I was sort of rediscovering LA. I was rediscovering the entertainment industry.
Wait, am I doing the calculations? You 3 months you booked in that 3 months you booked Greek and Supernatural?
The 3 months when I was like a kid and
Okay, I got you. I was like, wait, I was thrown off. I'm like, wow, that's great.
No, not that fast.
Okay.
So yeah, it was a really good start. I definitely never lost touch with how fortunate I was to sort of hit the ground running and how rare that is. But it was definitely and continues to be a roller coaster. There are times that things are busy and you think like, okay, this is it. This is the new normal. And then months go by of nothing, and suddenly you're like, oh wait, maybe I just was lucky, and now this is the new normal. Like, you can never get too comfortable.
You can never get comfortable.
No.
And then when you get comfortable is when you get in trouble.
Yeah. Although I haven't gotten there yet.
Wait a second. Is something coming behind us? All right. I didn't know if there was a train coming.
Sound effects.
Okay. So when do you? Oh, that noise was really loud. Okay, here we're gonna project. When do you and I work on CSI New York together? Is that before or after Supernatural?
After.
Okay, Amy, you always stuck out to me when I worked with you because you seem like you always knew. Ooh, nice. And I'm not just trying to say this just to say it, but you had it and you have it. But you brought it. I saw you like practicing. Like, I don't know. You were a totally different actress than I had worked with for some reason.
Thank you.
I was impressed with you.
Thank you very much.
I'm going to stop right there to talk about the acting really quick, okay?
Yeah.
If you have an audition tomorrow and it's 7 pages,
Okay.
tell me how you break that down. I don't need to know step by step, but I want to know how you because I admire you as an actress, I want to know how you study for a audition.
I'm a big fan of the research side. I love creating the backstory and sort of world of the character. So, I mean, very first, I read all of the material. And
what do you mean all the material? Like the script? You read the whole script?
If there's a script available, I usually will, and if there's time, of course, I will at the very least skim through the script, but I try to always read it if there is one available to me, which there's not always.
Sure.
And kind of look for clues within the script that maybe aren't obvious or aren't necessarily in the sides that you're given for the audition. I always feel like there are like little hidden things in there that a lot of people miss. So it's just fun for me, little fun challenge. And then I kind of just go from there. I break down the script and, do all the technical stuff.
How are you memorizing your lines? Are you just saying it over and over and over? Is there a format?
I actually feel like the more I understand the character and the more I understand the story, the easier the lines come to me.
Okay.
But yeah, memorization for me is kind of the last step. I first go through and break it all down and make sure I'm really clear on what I'm doing in the scene. And then through that process, the memorization sort of just is a byproduct of the preparation.
Okay. So you're a real actress. Okay. All right. So
these are the 6 steps.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on. So basically you just you do a lot of studying, you do backstory, and then the last thing you do is memorize.
Yeah, and it depends.
I do it the other way around.
There's some, well, I was just going to say, it depends on so many factors. If you're given something and you're like, all right, tomorrow morning, 8 a.m., you have to be off book and it's 13 pages, you got to get to the memorization.
Yeah.
The more time you have, the more sort of fun you can have playing within that. And it's like, it, I think, becomes muscle memory. The busier you are and the more you have to memorize lines, the easier it is. And then when we're in a lovely dry spell and you haven't sort of used that muscle in a while, it's harder.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Amy, for that. Now, getting back to your career.
Yes.
So you do CSI New York, but before that or after that, you do CSI Miami.
I think they were close together. I think it was right before.
I did all the CSIs except Miami.
Wow.
So I'm kind of upset about
All
that,
right.
but I'm jealous. I'm glad that you got your CSI Miami.
Right. I've only done New York and Miami.
Okay, so you do that. I want to do the build up to Cupid, to Arrow, because all right. So what do you do after NCIS? I kept saying NCIS. Yeah.
The build up. I mean, just riding the crazy roller coaster, and I did. Mostly guest stars here and there, kind of in between those 2 jobs.
Were you taking any co-starring parts at this time?
No.
You specifically told your agent no co-stars?
Once I had sort of lived in guest star land for a little while, we as a team kind of decided, like, okay, now how do we take where we are and kind of get it to the next step? I feel like as an actor, there's like always a next step. As soon as, going back to what we were talking about, as soon as you get comfortable and like, all right, I can cry, I can do this, like, the victim or the murderer, then you're like, all right, now what's next? And so I think at that point I believe I was no longer being submitted for co-stars.
Real actresses say the word team when they're talking about their reps. Oh yeah, well, me and my team. I mean, seriously, it's great. I'm jealous. Okay, I wish I had a team. I have people, but I don't have a team.
I mean, it depends on the day.
Well, exactly. Okay, so your team is working towards what's the goal for you? Before anything else, what's the goal that you want to achieve in Hollywood? What is the thing?
They're the ultimate goal of being a movie star.
So that is
I think at that point it was just working consistently and continuing to build those relationships so that I was ready for the bigger opportunities as they came about. Sort of the organic, if there were a linear path, which there's not, from co-stars to guest stars and then guest stars to recurring and recurring to series regulars, and then that's a launch pad into movie land.
Right.
I think that was sort of if there were a plan, that would have been it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what do you do when what is your thing that you do when it is slow?
I feel like acting is or the arts in general, one of the few careers that you just can't turn it off. It is an emotional roller coaster, and the lows are so low and the highs are so high. And I remember being told that in theater school, and I didn't believe it.
Yeah,
Because it's great when you're always creating something. Like, what could be bad? But you do spend, I would say, depending on the career, you're unemployed for a lot more of the time than you are employed, and there's very little that's in your control. I can't say I always take my own advice, but for me, sort of the thing that keeps me going and keeps me in this and connected to why I went into this crazy field in the first place, are finding other ways that make me feel creatively and personally fulfilled, or use the art to give back in some greater way, because it can feel, I don't know, the entertainment industry can feel very lonely and sort of isolating, but also in a weird, egotistical, the world revolves around you way, but it doesn't. And so for me, I kind of always have to have something that I feel like I'm using my art for some sort of greater good, whether that's volunteering or teaching or working with those who can't pursue this, for whether it's physical, mental, whatever. I don't know, something that reminds me okay, there's something bigger than booking the next job.
Well, let me tell you something about you, Amy.
Uh-oh.
And I'm gonna tell you why you keep working. And my wife pointed this out to me a long time ago. People who volunteer continue working. My wife works at Art of Elysium, which you do volunteer at. And
thanks to your wife.
Well, thanks to you, though. But anyway, guys, volunteer during your slow time. My 2 cents is volunteer like she does, because it does obviously work, right?
It does, and I think that we need to be reminded that there's something more important than booking the next job, or when are you going to get an audition, or oh my god, my agent didn't call me. It can be crazy making.
Yeah.
And so it sort of shifts the spotlight away from you and onto something else, and is, I don't know, nice, sort of brings me back to earth a little bit. And it's interesting because every time I am in one of those dry spells and I invest my energy in something else, particularly like that, I feel like I bring so much more to the auditions that do come, and I usually work more when I'm not so desperate and waiting for that phone to ring.
I hear you. Okay, so now back to your career.
Okay.
So we're going towards the big booking. Would you say Arrow's your biggest booking? Would you say that? I guess because I'm asking that question because it's your last big booking. I'm not saying it's your, you haven't booked in a long time, but no, I'm not saying that, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I would say definitely from a commercial standpoint. Yeah, I booked Turn, Washington.
That's right.
Around the same time as Arrow. So that was interesting because those both came right after one of these dry spells that we're talking about, when I was sort of questioning what am I doing and why am I doing it and where is this going, and I just needed to shake things up. I had just started working with a new management company, and was just sort of feeling complacent and kind of watching my reel, and it was me doing the same thing in different costumes. Something needed to change.
Okay.
And so when I got the audition, I think that those two, both roles were so different than anything I had ever done. And I think that they kind of informed each other in a lot of ways. I think that working on Turn, I don't know, that kind of allowed people to see me in a different light because it was a period piece and it was a little edgier and something that was a little bit more ongoing. And so I actually think that really helped me book Arrow.
Because you booked those two big things and they're both recurring, did they ever compete?
We did.
Okay, who lost on that one?
Who lost? I think there was only one time that they weren't able to work it out. It sort of was, every actor's dream is to have jobs conflicting. That never happens. And I will cherish that because I don't know when that's going to happen again. And they both filmed in different places. Arrow was in Vancouver and Turn was in Virginia. So there was only one, I think, that we weren't able to work out, and I ended up not being able to do an episode of Arrow.
Wow.
But they figured out how to bring me back later. So
okay, good.
Who knows?
When you auditioned for Arrow, was it a one-time gig?
For the role of Cupid?
Yes.
I knew it was recurring. I didn't know what that meant. I was told probably 2 to 3 episodes, but you never know. And that was one of those auditions that I thought there was no way I would book. The character's name was Redhead because they're very secretive about everything on that show. So I didn't know who I was auditioning for. I was given fake sides that were vaguely character-wise similar, but again, didn't give me any clues as to like what was going on or who this person was. So I had to sort of create all of that. And I walked into the audition room, or the waiting room, and it was just like a sea of beautiful redheads. And so again, I was like, well, this is...
And you're still blonde at this time. You didn't do anything to make your hair red? Okay.
No. And so I remember walking in and thinking like, well, this isn't going to go my way, so I'm just going to have fun with it. And I wish I knew how to recreate that feeling.
Yes, I know what you're talking about. Yep.
Because I really did. It was one of those few times that I walked in and really just had fun in the room without feeling like I was trying to like prove myself in any way. I had auditioned for the show several times before, so I kind of had a relationship with The Office.
Who's The Office again? Who's
David Rappaport.
Okay.
Who is just one of those casting directors that is so loyal and there for his actors, and so I knew, or I had hoped that eventually like something would, I don't know, manifest a booking or whatever, but you never know.
Yeah.
And it was kind of one of those experiences that I was like, you know, my job is to win over the room, and if I fit what they're looking for in terms of like this role, great, but my hair's blonde, so probably not. And I left, and I remember I got into the car and called my husband. I was like, whatever happens, I had so much fun. And that's such a rare... I mean, as sad as
I know,
it's
right.
Rare to walk out of a room and feel like I did my job, I did my version of the character, and now it's like whatever happens, out of my control. And I didn't hear anything for a few weeks, about 2 weeks.
2 weeks? Nothing? No event? No, like we're going to put a pin in you or anything?
No, which also is weird for episodic.
That is. That's very weird.
And then I got a call that I booked it, and
there was no pin. There was nothing. Nothing in the middle.
There was a pin, but that process happened really quickly. From when I found out they had pinned me to booking it, that was probably like about a day.
Okay. Wow. So 2 weeks.
So I don't know what happened.
Wow, that's great. Okay.
And it was interesting because they then after I booked it, they told me who the character was, and I immediately Googled her, and I cried thinking like, okay, they made a mistake.
Why do you think they made a mistake?
Well, the comic books are kind of... Cupid is like very not very clothed, and
okay.
But I thought, I was like, this is so not me. Little did I know that, like, okay, it's a comic book, and there's a creative team, and they have a vision, and I need to trust that vision. And they sort of recreated, obviously they stayed pretty true to the comic, but kind of like recreated Cupid as they brought her to life. And I actually think it was good that I didn't know who I was. I think I would have put a lot more pressure on myself had I known it was Cupid.
Okay.
And then sort of that experience actually was a huge sort of wake-up call for me as an actor. I had the opportunity to get to know the creative team a bit and the creator.
See, team. She's using the word team again. Go ahead.
Because I want us all to be a team.
Yeah, okay.
I live in dreamland. But the writers and the creators of the show in particular, of Cupid, the team. And I remember that I was delayed on a flight home from Vancouver one time, and I was sitting next to the creator of the show, and so we start talking, and he told me, and obviously this is again, like we rarely get these little behind the scene tidbits, but he said I had auditioned for another role like months previous, and at that time they didn't know that they were going to introduce Cupid. I didn't book that role, but I guess in that audition he said, if and when I ever bring Cupid onto the show, that's our Cupid. So obviously I had no idea, and I still had to kind of live up, show him that I could do it in the audition. Again, I'm glad I didn't know that, but it was a nice reminder that like you just never know. And walking into the room, you have no idea what conversations they've had or what ideas they've had, or we spend so much time, I think, trying to be what we think they want us to be when really we have no idea.
Yeah.
And sometimes the decision is made before you walk in the room, and sometimes you change their mind, and you kind of just have to throw your hands up and do whatever it is you can do and trust that something will happen.
Yeah. So Amy, you're telling me you're a comic book character. I mean, that's like the part that's what everybody wants in Hollywood right now. I mean, everybody wants to be a comic book character, and you are. Okay. Tell me this. You can answer one of two questions.
Okay.
Darkest days of Hollywood or the worst audition you ever had?
Man. Darkest days or the worst audition?
If you don't have either, that's totally fine.
Well,
if nothing comes to mind.
Picking one is hard.
Well, if you got both at hand, go for it.
It's just such a roller coaster.
It is.
And I have, like we talked about, I have been so fortunate, and it's really hard to remember that in the dark days, that there's so many days that I'm like, what am I doing? And like, why can't I just have a normal job and sit behind a desk from 9 to 5?
Yeah.
And if I could be happy doing that, I would be.
Yeah.
And the advice that you get growing up is like, if you'll be happy doing anything else, go do it. And I always got so mad when people would say that, and here I am now giving that advice.
Exactly.
Go do something else.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to ask you another question.
All right,
And if we go back to that, we go back to it.
Okay.
Best days of Hollywood. Are you in them now, or have they been in the past?
I think the best days so far are in the past.
Okay.
It's interesting. Every time being on set is probably one of my happiest places.
Me too. I tell my wife every time. That's the only time I'm not worried about problems, money, anything.
Yeah.
Everything is fantastic when you're on the set.
And it's really as cheesy and cliche as this sounds, it's I still have moments of being on set and I'm like kind of in awe that I'm doing this and that people are paying me to do it. And it's a good thing I have an agent, because I would pay people to let me do it.
I know. Yeah, I hear you.
I'd be a great agent for other people, but not for myself. So yeah, I feel like I've had so many great experiences on individual sets, and I could talk about a story with every show. There are a few shows that I would say there are moments that really stand out because of like the collaboration of the cast and crew. For instance, a show like Turn, every day on that set was like going to work on some amazing play, and everyone was like so invested, and actors would rap, but they would stay on set to like just be there to support you and to run lines and to rehearse. And so that sort of like family is something that's rare, and something that show did really well. Supernatural is another one that is the second you walk onto set, you're immediately like part of that world. And so that feeling of like, oh, this could be my life every day, and these are the kinds of people I want to work with and the kinds of actors I want to be like, I think those would be amongst the best days.
Okay, if somebody came to you and go, Amy, I can get you a 3-movie deal, or I can get you a series regular gig that lasts 5 years, which one would you go for?
I would go for the series regular and then do the 3 movies on my hiatus.
Look at you. All right, Amy, is there anything else I need to know about you?
Anything else? I don't know. This just came to mind. I had an overactive imagination as a child.
Okay.
I had a whole world of imaginary friends, which maybe makes me sound crazy or explains why I'm an actress.
Well, now let me hear it. Well, who are your imaginary friends, and do you still have them?
From time to time we check in.
Okay, that's fine.
It's weird. This is like confessions with you.
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, no, but I have like a memory will pop up and I'm like, oh yeah, I was there with Kulak. Nope, she's not real. But yes, I had Kulak, Jumper, Bityam, and Ati were the 4 sort of main. These started as like a toddler.
This is like Drop Dead Fred. Did you see Drop Dead Fred?
I could recite Drop Dead.
Okay, so this is exactly like it, and I kind of want you to make a movie about these 4 characters.
I've played around with that idea.
Seriously, I mean, I really got goosebumps when you told me, because you say their names like they're real.
That's what I'm saying. I think back and I'm like, oh yeah, I did that. Oh no, that only I saw that person.
Okay, when is the last time one's visited you?
It's been a long time.
Okay, well that's kind of sad, because you kind of want to hang that.
I know.
Want to hang on to that.
I know.
All right.
Society.
I know it. They look down on stuff like that. All right, Amy, I guess we're going to shut it down, but I just want to thank you so much for doing this. Amy, do me a favor.
Yes.
Tell everybody bye out there.